Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Rafe Kel. We are going to travel here to South Figaro, which we're just making a brief stop. We saw a strange-looking guy go by into the pub, which is another great example of foreshadowing that I've mentioned before. We're going to pick up a few items here real quick. Prevents petrification. Yeah, I think we're good there. We're gonna do a little re-equipping here. Mostly, this is gonna be to just make it a little bit easier on me. We're putting Locke in the back row since he's gonna be stealing things. We're gonna put Edgar in the back row because he's gonna be using auto crossbow, and we're gonna leave Tara in the front because she's gonna be using physical attacks for the time being. And that matters in this game. Okay, we get this sudden change in music. Norris and Mapey will just disappear. Back off, Locke. That guy looks familiar. Yeah, it's him, alright. Comes and goes like the wind, swearing allegiance to no one. Hidden behind his wintry gaze lies a face known to none who live. Shadow. Again, we get this foreshadowing. He'd kill his own best friend for the right price. We'll steer clear of him. Also, he has a puppy. Leave us. The dog eats strangers. See a merchant down here. There's a lot of really neat stuff to South Figaro. There's a lot of map to it. Partially because we're going to be coming back here and it's going to be almost a dungeon. Not literally a dungeon, but properties of a dungeon. Okay, so we're going to grab Edgar's other equipment real quick. We're going to grab a greatsword. Looks like. And we're gonna grab 2 heavy shields. A Kenpoki, cotton robe, and 3 plumed hats, it looks like, which is most of our money. And equip the greatsword here, it looks like. And that should let Locke have the mithril sword, which is fine. We're gonna leave Edgar with what he's got. We're gonna get rid of this leather armor we're not using. The mithril knives we're not using. And dagger. We can always grind for money, but actually having enough money is gonna be important later. So I am gonna try and be relatively frugal. We're gonna buy new gear. We're gonna buy a few relics and items. Not a huge deal though. I like swords. Welcome to town. We're also gonna stop by this chocobo stable. That's a little bit much. Let me teach you how to ride a chocobo. What? We already learned how to ride a chocobo. Why would you do that? Okay. We get actual chocobo music now. That's gonna be our final destination, but there's actually one other little point of interest here. So we're gonna stop here first. What's that smell? Okay, we're gonna find these flowers. He always liked these. Whoops. Apparently we accidentally are taking a nap. But hey, it's cheaper than an inn. Potion. This tea was his favorite. These dishes, they're just like the one he always used. So yeah, we get just these little hints. Would Sabin be living here? That his long-lost brother is out and about. Hey, do you happen to know where I could find the man who lives here? Sure do, he left a couple of days ago. As soon as he heard Master Duncan had been killed, headed up into the mountains. So we get this, again, this awesome little foreshadowing moment where we learn more about the characters involved. Forgot to do auto crossbow, but that's okay. Auto crossbows basically just wastes everything going through the early game. That's unfortunately how it works. We get to Mount Colts. Mount Colts is really cool in that it is a dungeon that is... it has some non-linear elements to it, which I really appreciate. Like, you can basically, if you follow the straight path, you will miss stuff. Okay, we're gonna sort so that our auto crossbow's back at the top where it belongs. Continue auto crossbowing things to death. Now I know that these guys don't go down in one hit. May have to take a slightly different approach with those enemies. Wow. Do a quick heal there. I think that actually looks like it's the right way, so I'm gonna see if we can do this first. It has been a while since I actually played through this section, so... Now let's see if these guys go down in one hit. Yep. We are probably going to want to be stealing from them shortly here. My Gauche is a dagger, so that's going to be equipable. by lock. Also increases his speed fairly substantially here. Double check we can equip it on Terra. So we're going to use one of Edgar's other tools here. The Noise Blaster gives a confuse effect. And the Bio Blaster is a poison damage attack that can also cause the poison status effect. Crap. So the Noise Blaster, with these early enemies that use a lot of physical attacks, is actually a really good way to just make them negate their turn. You can also see that little 6 damage tick that he's poisoned. So we wait for him to do his attack on himself first so he wastes his turn, because once we hit him with a physical attack, it breaks the confusion. So yeah, already we can see there's a lot of these little offshoot paths. It's not a lot of the paths aren't straight. It looks fairly natural. It looks like caves. It's like a mountain path. And again, the details for the sprites and the backgrounds are very good. It looks more engaging than just a simple pattern would. So you can see there, I did a we're gonna do a Noise Blaster. You can see there, I had that attack. Terra's attacking from the rear, which will do double damage. So if you are in an attack formation like this, where it's a pincher, then the people on the left side, if they're facing left, then the people on the left side do normal damage, and the people on the right side do double damage, and vice versa. And the enemies turn based on who they've attacked most recently. Just kind of a neat little thing that possibly a layer that some people might not have known about the game as far as these type of attacks go. And there's actually going to be certain boss fights where we're going to want to take advantage of that. Or be careful of that, because if you get pincer attacked and you attack on one side, the stuff on the other side does double damage to you. For example, the crane fight. There's one enemy on each side, and they hit really hard. So having that aspect available, keeping that in mind, is really important. And we will specifically address that when we get there. Okay, I'm gonna do a Noise Blaster real quick. Come on. Come on. So these guys have a rare drop, which is why I'm trying to steal so vehemently, instead of just auto crossbowing. Like I should. Get a tent. Full heal at save points. Pretty straightforward. Get another shot at it at least. Like I said, the main point here is just to make the enemies lose their turns with the Noise Blaster. I'm not actually expecting it to be, you know, a very like powerful thing where they'll hit themselves to death. It's so they don't hit me. It saves us from having to do as much work. So I mentioned the physical attacks, turn them back around. Steel is not considered a physical attack. And elemental attacks like Bioblaster are not considered physical attacks. So we can use that and leave them confused. Come on, lock. It's not like it's the end of the world. I mean, these guys are still kind of just chumps, but I believe they do drop a good weapon for the next character we're recruiting. Auto crossbow for the win. It's a classic for a reason. A lot of these steals are not necessary by any means, as I've said a couple times now, but they're useful. And like I said, we're going to be trying something very specific with a money route later on. So just getting off to a good start, preserving money where I can by stealing as many items from enemies, making sure that I'm getting equipment from enemies when I can, stuff like that, is going to be useful. I have notes for just a few specific things that we're looking for. And a lot of them aren't necessary by any means. So, like, the one that we're doing there, not one of the ones that I had on my list even. It's just, if we're fighting stuff anyway, we might as well try. Like, these guys just drop a regular potion, which is not the same as a potion in the original SNES game, just to be clear. They changed the names of a lot of things to fit the later games' models a little better. For example, in the original, these were called, or potions were tonics, and what this game calls high potions were called potions. Not that that's confusing at all. Yeah, in this game, the one that potions heal 50, which were called tonics in the original. High potions do 250, which was potions in the original. And we get to Vargas, who's going to be one of our first real bosses. Bottom crossbow should take out everything but the core. Good. The little shield icon there means that there's that it got triggered off an evade chance. Which is actually one of the big things that got fixed in this particular game. Talk about that a little bit more coming up here. Okay. And now we get to fight Vargas. And his bears. Ah, they're immune to confusion. Apparently. So we can't actually attack Vargas yet, which is a really interesting little note. I'm gonna go ahead and do a Bioblaster here. Have Locke. Do a quick heal on Terra, and have Terra toss some Fire Magic out. then we'll start the auto crossbow train out. He's going to use not a weak attack, but not a powerful attack necessarily. Plus a Bioblaster out here just to poison him. Keep trying to steal just on the off chance we get it. Like I said, this isn't a super hard fight. We're just gonna use fire, auto crossbow, steal. Pretty straightforward. Enough of this. And Sabin shows up. Why'd you kill Master Duncan? Okay. So he's gonna use this Blizzard Fist attack. We're supposed to get this tutorial later on about Blitz, but we can actually just use it right now to finish the fight. So Blitz attacks are Sabin's special feature. They involve inputting a key command, a series of key commands, kind of like a move in a fighting game. So since he is the big fighter character, the brawler character, he reacts like a fighting game. Down to we're gonna have his big like beam cannon attack that works like a Hadouken. So I'll take that as a compliment. Okay. There will be no more playing Lapdog to the Empire. I'm through with that act. Think a bear like me would be of any help? Not. Let's get going. Okay. So he already has a Kenpo-gi. Looks like we don't have a plumed hat for him, which is unfortunate. We're actually gonna steal Locks. We'll see if we get any other chances here for the last item I was missing. So like I said, Sabin just has these special moves called Blitz. They are activated by inputting a series of commands. In this case, it's just forward, back, forward, and then an A. The timing isn't nearly as sensitive as it is in a fighting game, but they do a lot of damage. This one in particular is just basically a more powerful version of a physical attack. We'll find some other ones later that are different magical elements, including holy-based attack. He has one of the only holy-based attacks in it. Until we get the actual spell Holy. I really just want this steal. He didn't notice. can tell how unnecessary it is by how fervently I'm trying to get it, right? I'm very bad at saying one thing and doing another on occasion. I apologize. We should move on. Okay. I'm gonna get back to the world map. I believe we're going to get another heal very shortly here, but we will go ahead and save, just in case I input something wrong. We've also got our levels a lot more well-rounded here. Before Mount Colts, Edgar was level 10 and Terra was level 7. There's a big gap there. We're gonna do a quick circuit here. By that I mean we're just gonna go grab that one item, apparently. And go talk to Bannon. So Bannon tells a version of Pandora's box for some reason. He reminds her that her power could be either a gift or a curse. That she could be hope. Bannon's also very aggressive pushing her and gives her some time to think. Once again, there's a lot of talk about how the Empire is using her. There's also a lot of people in our group who push very hard. We'll learn a little bit more about the character's motivations here. Locke says the Empire stole someone very important from him. She doesn't have anybody important. She doesn't have anyone to fight for. One of the best things, in my opinion, about Terra, Sabin says he trusts his brother. He always thought of other people's needs before his own. So yeah, I really like the fact that Terra is... There we go. If we force our ideas on you, we're no different from the Empire. We want you to decide for yourself. That's one of the biggest things with this that I love, is even the rebellion characters, you know, are very pushy at times, but they do eventually come to the realization. Okay, so we're gonna say no. The reason we're doing that is actually not for story. We're gonna talk to this guy. I understand your apprehension, but too many innocent lives are being lost in the Empire while we stand here and do nothing. Please lend us your strength. This will help keep you safe. We need your help. Remember, yeah, there we go. White Cape. So we get the Genji glove, which is awesome. We're gonna go back out here, talk to Banon again. Normally you have to say no to him 3 times to completely reject him, but if we say yes, we'll get a scene. So I'm gonna say yes to progress the story. The coolest thing about this to me is you can say no. The story still progresses, but you actually have the ability to say no, and you don't get this scene if that's the case. Find out there's a connection between Espers and Magitech. And the War of the Magi, which we've heard referenced during the introduction. Energy drained from Espers was used to power machines, and that ordinary humans were also infused with that same energy. So when magic was being referenced, Magitech power, that was what was being referenced. That's possibly what was happening. Ben has the best ideas. He wants to have Terra talk to an Esper. There's a noise, and we see a wounded soldier. Once again, I've talked several times about the very expressive sprites. We see the way that that guy staggers in. Really, really emphasizes it. And South Figaro has been taken by the Empire, and they're headed this way. Someone has to sneak into South Figaro and slow the enemy down. Okay. We're heading down the Leith River to and then back to Narshe. And we get Banon for this next section. He's not actually going to stay with our party for long. I'm going to put him in the back row for this. We're going to leave Edgar in the back. Just briefly. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember if there's a save point right before we jump. Looks like no. And we'll have Port the Raft anyway. That's Banon Falls, the journey's over. Okay. This is actually a point where if you had the patience and wanted to, you can abuse the looping nature of this section. And Banon's Pray ability, which heals your entire party. You can actually abuse this with an infinite loop, which is really neat. And what you do is you either need a turbo controller to hold A. Let's go right. I don't actually remember the pattern here. Let's do some auto crossbowing. So yeah, you need basically a turbo controller where you can just hold the A button down, and what it does is it when it gives you those choices of which direction to go, there's one of the times where the default choice puts you in a loop back to the same point. So you set everybody else's memory cursor, which is one of the things you can do in this game. I'm not using memory cursors right now, but basically, like it would default Edgar to auto crossbow, for example. It remembers the last thing you did and it does it again. So you put Bannon on prey, and you put everybody else on just a physical attack, and you basically go in an infinite loop where Bannon heals your entire party for free every turn, and all the other characters attack. And this gives you the potential, if you just leave the game running like that, to gain as much experience and gold as you want. Now, it involves just letting the game sit for, I believe, like, at least 12 hours. It's fairly substantial how long it takes. And it's not terribly fun, like I said. It basically breaks you can just be level 99 right now. But why would you really want to do that? I mean, I totally did that as a kid, but I like having that aspect of challenge, so we're not doing it. If we were under-leveled right now, that is actually a place that we could... this right here is it, actually, this loop. This is a place that we could at least gain some levels still, because you do have just an infinite stream of enemies at this point. The ability to just kind of go in loops also makes Bannon it makes it easier for Bannon to survive. Since that is a concern, we did have a note there saying that if Bannon dies, it's game over. That's also why we have Bannon in the back row. He takes less physical damage that way, and he's not going to actually be doing anything except pray. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna go ahead and give Edgar Genji Glove and the Silver Spectacles. It's gonna increase his attack power substantially, which once again, the auto crossbow does go off of your attack stat. Okay, I think we're good. We're gonna go ahead and save just to be safe. We would like to not die at the boss. We're getting into a good rhythm here. I want to try and make sure I have Bannon use Prey every opportunity he gets, just for survivability. That waterfall is kind of a nice demarcation of a point of no return. if you've been going through that earlier section feeling like you've been going in circles, this is kind of that point where you are fully aware that that is not the case. You know, I've gone down this waterfall, I've not seen a waterfall before, and this is something different and new. Let's do a second dose of auto crossbow. And we're going to get to Ultros. Ultros is a recurring villain throughout the rest of this game. So this is one of the, or this is one I would actually like to take the moment to point out one of the major glitches from the original game. And apparently, oh good, that scared the crap out of me. So Tentacle's very powerful, obviously. Should have moved here to the back row I was going to, and I forgot. So Ultros hits pretty hard if you haven't noticed. He's the one of the first really challenging bosses. He's also funny. As you can see with his little commentary lines. And as I mentioned, this is actually one of the points with this version of the game that's very different than the original. And that is, the original game was bugged so that physical evasion did not work correctly. This meant that the blind status did nothing. So, in the original version of the game, when Ultros is using the blind, those attacks, there's no point in using the silver glasses, the goggles in that game. However, in this version of the game, it's actually a good thing. And that's why I gave Edgar, just to make sure that we're keeping up his damage. I'm pretty sure the auto crossbow and Sabin's Blitz still auto hit. Magic is still a separate evasion stat, so it wasn't really a big deal. But it's worth mentioning. Literally, if you play the SNES version of the game, literally if you play the SNES version of the game, anything that boosts your physical evasion is pointless. Now you know. Magic evasion, however, works, and it actually works for both. So, we are actually going to finish out the raft party. During this video, because I would like to get this group taken care of. It's kind of an annoying group, but we'll get through it. So this entire quest is literally just riding the rest of the way down the river to Narshe, as it was originally intended. really straightforward. There's not much to it beyond some random encounters. We're just gonna keep doing the same thing pretty much across the whole time. Yeah, this is probably a good time to bring up a little bit more about the game, or about why I like the game. So one of the questions that was posted was what FF6 means to me, and I had mentioned before that this was my introduction not just to Final Fantasy but to JRPGs in general. I can't remember if this was the first. I doubt this was the first RPG I ever played. I had Dragon Warrior as a kid, but I'm pretty sure this was the first game I ever beat. As far as RPGs go, and it's the first one that I really wanted to beat. I remember playing this game originally at my cousin's house. So they had a Super Nintendo and we didn't. And when we did get a Super Nintendo, I was like, I really enjoyed playing it at their house. It had the 2-player mode, so I could play with them. And while I didn't always completely appreciate it, especially at the level I do now as far as the mechanics go, and I didn't really know the story, I just loved the game. I remember reading about it in Nintendo Power. And it was something that I was just very intrigued by. I really always liked the ideas of like taking, like lists of items and stuff and like reusing them, finding new ways to like use those lists and like make up my own games and stuff, imagination games. And this was like most of the ones before this, where like Dragon Warrior had like 10 things on a list, and Secret of Mana had 1 per weapon category. This one was like something huge by comparison. There was just lists and lists of items and spells and stuff. And when we actually got a Super Nintendo, I remember this was a game that I rented a lot. We didn't actually own it for quite a while. But it was something that I actually managed to keep my save file when we were renting it, and got to the end. And I played all the way through it. It took quite a while to do. And again, it's something that I just kind of fell in love with. When I finally got a computer, I grabbed and knew what emulators were. It was one of the first things I grabbed there as well. Kind of became a game that I replayed multiple times. It's something that I keep coming back to. I remember in high school when I was trying to be, or high school or early college, when I was trying to be, extra nerdy about everything. I played it in different languages, just cause. I played a fan translation into English. I played I don't think I actually got all the way through it in Japanese or in German, but I started it in both. I probably played through at least the first part of this game like 25 times. Early on, and I continued to play it frequently. At this point, I do own my own copy. I have the GBA version, I have the SNES version, and while I understand it more and I can see more of its flaws now, it's still something that that I can really appreciate, and I still do think that it's one of it is definitely my favorite Final Fantasy game, and I think it is one of the best as well. And I totally missed that cue right there. So Arvis is going to try and convince us to side with the returner, or says we're going to try and get the Count of Narshe to side with the returners. And Banon reveals the plan. They're going to use the Terra talking to the Esper as a way to get the villagers of Narshe on our side. And that was the first scenario. It's fairly short. That's why we did it as part of that one. So hopefully that answers Kyle's question about what Final Fantasy VI means to me. It was my gateway into these types of games, and while I had played other games, it was the first one that I got all the way through. It was the first one that I really understood. And it's probably what made me appreciate these kind of games going forward. So, we're going to end this video here. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. Check out the other content on my channel. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Again, if you have questions, especially related to this game or topics you'd like to hear me talk about while we're leveling or going through some of these longer sections, please either leave those in the comments, or if you know me, feel free to contact me with them. And as always, have a good one.